O'Reilly. The next time you need auto parts and accessories, trust the parts professionals at the 102 Chicagoland O'Reilly Auto Parts stores. Our professional parts people know what it takes to get the job done right. Professionals have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for decades. Now you can too. Professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome, everyone. That was a weird intro. Did something go wrong with the music?
It stopped suddenly.
There's something wrong with the Blog Talk tonight. Well, anyway, hello and welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and I hope you can hear me. You are listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Luci Liebfried in Chicago. You are listening to one of the highest-rated paranormal radio shows on Blog Talk. No bull, no lies, just a true platform for everyone to share their knowledge and experiences. When searching for the truth, good communication is key. Now, tonight is a special night, but due to the live YouTube stream, we won't be taking any calls. Our Blog Talk chat room is open, so you can type in your questions and comments as well. In addition, if you log into the YouTube video, there will be chat there as well. I will be checking both chat rooms for questions, and if you're not sure about the YouTube video, just go to our Facebook page, Paranormal Review Radio. You will see a link to both Blog Talk and to YouTube. Now, don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Paranormal Review Radio. You will find more articles, blogs, and full show uploads. And if you have specific questions, comments, or would like to be a guest on the show, email us at paranormal.review@aol.com. Now, sit back, get comfy, and prepare to open your minds. It's time for Paranormal Review Radio.
It's going to be a powerful, powerful night tonight. I can feel the energy, and, I can also feel the misperceptions that have been casted on the Ouija world for the past few years. Tonight, Luci and I are going to tackle the infamous ZoZo Phenomenon. Yes, that's right. I said its name, ZoZo. We'll talk about the history of ZoZo, some of the thoughts and characteristics of ZoZo, past and present stories of experiences with ZoZo. And to top it all off tonight, I will be conducting a live Ouija board session to try and communicate with ZoZo. There's a lot to get tonight and a lot to set up, so let's get right into it. I'm actually going to first explain to folks, because if people are listening to us on Blog Talk and watching us on YouTube, it may be probably confusing on both ends, because if you're listening to us, you can't see us, and if you're watching us, you probably can't hear both of us. So I'm going to explain to folks who are not able to visually see the board and see my hands. I've got the Ouija board sitting in front of me right now, which is spookily, if that's a word, spooky setup, with some candles right now, which I've completely set up and lit prior to coming on the air, which the YouTube folks have seen me do. I have saged myself, and I have saged the board and the table that I am sitting at right now. I have two pieces of equipment with me. I have the Obelisk 3, which I'm going to turn on right now. So you can hear that turn on, and the folks on YouTube have actually just saw me turn that on. And I've also got the K2 meter, which both of these pieces of equipment are going to be sitting right in front of the board. And it is, if you are watching YouTube, you can visually see them both. The K2 meter, I've been having a little bit of a fluctuation. I've been testing it right before we went on air, and it's been on the first green light, and sometimes it goes on the second green light. So you may see it fluctuate in between both of those. I would not consider that any The obelisk said something, and I don't know what it said. So you may see the K2 meter fluctuate in between the two green. I'm not going to consider that anything as far as electromagnetic or anything at all. I'm only going to consider anything that goes into the orange or the red, really, not even into the yellow. I've tested the area. I've tested the camera. This thing keeps going off. Hold on a second. Country. Sahela? I have no idea what that means. Anyway, so I've tested all the equipment that is around me right now, and the K2 meter, again, does not go above the second green light. So there's no interference at all, if anything. I'm going to probably turn off this obelisk in a little while because it's annoying me as I'm talking. You know what? I may do that now anyway. I'm probably only going to turn it on once we do the Ouija board. So I've got those two pieces of equipment, so you guys can monitor the video and watch it and see if it fluctuates and let us know. Give us a hint. Let Lucy know. She'll be checking chat. And also in the center here, I have some beads, which I've done some bracelets for Lucy and a few other people, of some quartz and limestone. And apparently quartz and limestone is supposed to be an attraction for spirits. So I put that in a bowl in front of the Ouija board and have that set up here as well. In addition to that, Lucy, have you ever heard of sigils?
Yes. Come on, I watch Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I mean, I've heard of sigils, and so what I have done is I have, and for the folks who, again, who are watching YouTube, I'll put the paper in front of the camera, I have printed up about, I think it's maybe 90 or maybe close to 90 sigils or demonic sigil symbols. And I can read some of them off to you, which is Abyss, Anil, Amnixial, Barbiel, Babelel, Kamail. They're all in alphabetical order. Celios. I'm just reading the ones that I can actually pronounce. Babam. These are all sigils, which are symbolic meaning. It's sort of like a logo, like NBC and ABC. They all have logos to their companies. These are symbolic meanings for the demons itself. And apparently there is no ZoZo sigil here, which we'll get into a little bit. So I'm going to put those here on the table so that they are present. And again, everybody who's watching YouTube can hopefully see them here. So they're going to be present here. Apparently you're supposed to write them, I believe. You're supposed to draw them out as a symbolic ceremony as you were summoning or casting, but I'm not going to do that. So that's what I have in front of me here. And also, too, if you're listening on YouTube, and you may catch it on my earpiece here on Blog Talk, I'm not sure, but I've got some dark ambient music to sort of set the mood a little bit, and maybe that'll entice, if not ZoZo, maybe it'll entice some spirits to come. So that's what I have here in front of me. Is that enough, Lucy?
That's enough. You've got all those things there. And I want to give everybody a heads up. You know, we did do the sage right before. we've taken steps for protection. But just to give you a heads up, I mean, if you're queasy about this, if you have any hesitation of that, then feel free to turn it off, okay? But what we want to do is we just kind of want to see what this is all about. I mean, we spent the week going through the history, going through stories, going through experiences to see what exactly the ZoZo phenomena is all about. And I did a whole lot of research, and I guess let's start at the beginning. Basically, what is ZoZo? ZoZo is said to be an entity or a spirit, a so-called demon that has made contact with people while using the Ouija board. Now, it has happened while people have been using pendulums and through automatic writing, but it seems that the Ouija board is the main method of contact. When people use the Ouija board, they seem to come in contact with this entity. Now, other names that come across when ZoZo is supposedly around are Zam, Zono, Mama. Now, ZoZo is thought to be the nickname for the demon Pazuzu. The entity Mama seems to appear at the same time, and there are stories about it arguing with ZoZo for control of the board. Now, there's a couple theories out there. One theory is that ZoZo is nothing more than an evil spirit pretending to be a demon. Now, in the ancient Basque language, the word ZoZo is defined as blackbird or crow. ZoZo has revealed itself to be many things: a vague animal entity, a three-headed demon dog that guards the gates of hell. It has a tattoo, some say on the forehead, some say on the arm. They also say that it's Lucifer's daughter, it's an immortal spirit, it's a demon, it's even Lucifer itself. Aleister Crowley claimed that ZoZo was actually a term that meant 666. Now, Pazuzu. Pazuzu comes from the Assyrian and Babylonian mythology, and he's described as king of the demons of the wind. He represented the southwest wind, the bearer of storms. Now, even though Pazuzu was said to be an evil spirit, he drove away other evil spirits. So he did protect humans against plagues and misfortunes. They used amulets.
Right. Pazuzu, what I've read, just to interrupt here a little bit, Pazuzu, symbolically was put into the Exorcist movie and was deemed demonic and was deemed terrible and horrific. But Pazuzu, in many ancient cultures, was actually created in a statue form and put in people's homes for protection, almost as if it was a holy amulet, as if it was a rosary bead, And yes, Pazuzu has a good side, and yes, Pazuzu had a bad side, but in ancient stories, from what I have gathered, the good of Pazuzu outweighed the bad. It just had a bad temper. And if you got on its bad side, it would strike back. But for all good and purposes, its intentions were good. It was a protector of pregnant women. It was a fertility god almost. So, this is where oral history and communication breaks down the reality and the true history of anything, of everything. And this is where misrepresentations happen.
Well, like you said, Pazuzu, people used it as protection against other evil spirits. They used him as protection against plagues, against misfortunes. So a lot of the things that people believe now are a result of media, are a result of The Exorcist. Again, this movie in the 70s that kind of demonized the contact that was made. A lot of the stuff that people hear right now really has no basis in fact. Now, people, while they're using the board, they have asked, this entity questions on where it came from. most occasions after revealing itself as ZoZo. He won't deny what he is. He'll tell you outright that he's a demon from hell. He claimed once to be Satan. And this demon, when it appears, it comes forth and well, let me go here. I've got a list of things that happen when it appears. Usually when a person starts a session, the Ouija board pointer, it starts moving in a figure 8 pattern. The letter Z can be found scratched into things. Some users, they get violent urges. There's communication that sometimes can be Latin. It can be Hebrew. People can feel strangled and attacked in other ways. There are instances where spiders seem to come from nowhere. There are assaults of sexual nature that are reported. And there's even reports of people being picked up and losing their sight. A lot of the history and a lot of the things, when I did the research, there were 3 main people that kept coming up. One of them is John Zaffis, one is Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and another one is a person named Darren Evans, And Darren Evans is a researcher. He calls himself a zozoologist who has a lot of what he claims experience in contact with this entity. His experience with the entity was very negative. He has gone through a lot of things in his life once he started coming in contact. Now, I did go through Rosemary Ellen Guiley. She has a book called Ouija Gone Wild, and she has devoted a whole chapter to the ZoZo phenomena. And according to Rosemary, this entity calls itself the King of Kings. And when it comes to terrorizing people, yes, it is a master, as she says. Now, for decades, ZoZo has turned Ouija board entertainment into demonic harassment, sometimes with horrific consequences. Now, she says that she has gotten many emails from people across the world who have come in contact. One thing I found kind of interesting when I was going through the experiences and looking for stories, most of the stories that I found occur here in the United States. I had a hard time finding experiences internationally. And the stories, I don't know where they are. I looked for them, but I didn't find a whole lot. Now,
except for the first
one in Canada.
Well, no, the first recorded one, which was in what, 1816?
1818. Well, it happened in 18. It wasn't documented until 1818. It happened in France. That's the first actual appearance of the name in print. Let's see.
But that's it. You know, there really isn't any history to the ZoZo name or the idea of a ZoZo demon or demonic entity of ZoZo. You know, not even in religious faiths, there is a connotation to the word ZoZo, which I've heard it being called as, you know, the altar of ZoZo, you know, where there's sort of devil worshipping or ritualistic devil worshipping. I think it was Saint Benedictine, I don't know, something with a B, calling these people who have worshipped the devil, calling it the altar of ZoZo or of some sort of nature of that, where it's the altar of the death or altar of death, and they've utilized the word ZoZo for that nature. But there's no real name or no real connotation to the word ZoZo to any demonic entity. There's nothing in the religious books that I can find. There's nothing in ancient history that I can find anywhere other than where it pops up in 1816 or 1818 in the French recorded history of someone being possessed by someone by the name of ZoZo, and I think it was two other demonic entities, Mimi and something with a C, and right, and then it jumps to I think it's what?
The 1980s.
1980s, yeah.
Appears.
Almost 200 years later.
Well, one thing that I found interesting, in modern usage, ZoZo is a French slang term for twit, and it's a voodoo slang term for penis. So, I mean,
right,
some people say
I even read that the letter Z, the consonant letter Z, was I think it was in Europe. The government wanted to outlaw the letter.
That was in the UK.
Where
they
was
wanted
that?
to outlaw the letter Z. It was in the UK.
I was in the UK.
They wanted to outlaw the letter Z at one point.
Right, because they felt that it was sort of evil, the letter.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, some people say that it's a misspelling of Pazuzu. You know, there's no real basis for this name. When you look at everything, I mean, when I was looking in the history of it, there's no known entity named ZoZo. There is no, like you said, no religious figure. There's nothing. I mean, the closest thing that you have is Pazuzu. And again, the reputation that Pazuzu has, yes, it is a powerful entity, a deity, but back in the time, it was a protector. So how it came across to becoming something negative, something demonic, is it's really still a big question in my mind. You know, again, I point towards media, I point towards movies, I point towards
pop culture.
A lot pop culture. You know, so when you go online, you can just type in ZoZo and you'll get all of these stories. Now, separating fact from fiction seemed to be the hardest thing. A lot of these stories, they all seem to be the same, where someone is using the Ouija board, and it seemed to be a lot of teenagers. A lot of the stories that I was reading, you know, my name is so-and-so, I'm 14 years old. You know, so I question that. First off, everybody knows, you know, like, when you're a kid, people start playing around, you know, it's a game. But I think a lot of it may be people just scaring themselves. Whether this is something for real, I don't know. You know, I mean, I'm still not convinced that this is actually a demon. I'm really not.
One of the more prominent characteristics of ZoZo that I've heard time and time again is in regards to ZoZo, and it's being described that ZoZo is this three-headed dog that guards the gates of hell, or that there is a three-headed dog that guards the gates of hell that has a tattoo on its forehead with the letters ZoZo on it, and therefore they're equating it to this demonic entity ZoZo. Now, I've gone back and I've done my research and gone back in history and learned that yes, there is in history, in theology, that there is a supposed three-headed dog that guards the gates of hell, but it is called Cerberus, or also too. There's another one called Nabarius. I just butchered that name, Nabarius. So those two demonic names, which have history and have been noted within theology to be a three-headed dog that guards the gates of hell, but nowhere does it say anything about them having a ZoZo tattoo or of any depiction or of any relation to anything with the name ZoZo at all. There is no ZoZo in history that is said to guard the gates of hell. And so I'm not sure, again, where this miscommunication is coming forward, or this misperception, this sort of odd perception that it is. And again, it's sort of like that telephone game. One person starts it, and this oral history comes down the pike, and you end up with this thing being a polka-dotted elephant with a bow and arrow and a tutu. And that's not what it is, and that's not how it is. And so if everybody were to just do their research and look for it, you'd find that there's nothing substantial that will come back to it actually being what people are saying it to be being. And it just doesn't substantiate the claims to it.
Well, I was just going to say, and Rachel Nason in the Blog Talk chat room just brought it up, just look at the Charlie challenge that was just up, okay?
Right.
Earlier this week, it was posted that it was a publicity stunt for a movie. It wasn't anything real. But yet when it went viral on the Internet, everybody was like, oh, no, it's evil and it's demons. And when basically it was something that was made up by movie producers. So the reputation that's happening very possibly is just a matter of people just repeating stories and wanting to scare each other. Now, there are a couple of things on the other side. There are reports of people who are using the Ouija board and have never heard of ZoZo before, and yet this entity, the name comes across. The ZO keeps coming. So we'll see what happens. I mean,
well, can I tackle that for a minute?
Yes.
Okay. I can completely, not debunk it, but I can completely try and explain the idea of when somebody does not have an idea of ZoZo, and when they do the Ouija board, ZoZo comes up. So, for instance, if everybody who is listening on Blog Talk right now can either go on Google right now and pull up a picture of the Ouija board, and I'll give you a couple of seconds if you're able to do that, or if you have it in memory and you can tell where the letters are on the board, great. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can actually see the board that's right in front of me. You'll be able to sort of play along as I'm talking. So if you have somebody who does not know anything about ZoZo and is playing the Ouija board, you automatically, and I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, people have seen movies, have seen videos, have seen things where people are possessed, okay? And when people are in an altered state of mind, not just being obsessed, but even in an altered state of mind, and I can talk about that because it happened to me in one of the locations that we were at where I was rocking back and forth, forward and back, and the constant motion of the forward and back movement creates or connotates the idea that you are in an altered state of mind. Something is taken over, either your subconscious, conscious, or possibly even something quote-unquote demonic. And so this back and forth motion is symbolic for something being possessed or something of a possession. So when you look at the board and you look at the Ouija board and the idea of something taking over the board and something taking over you while you were doing the board, and if everybody's watching YouTube right now, they're going to just see me moving the planchette right now. While you are doing the Ouija board and a supposed demonic entity takes over you or the board itself, there's that back and forth motion. It's that repetitive motion back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And if you notice when you're going back and forth, and again, this is my interpretation of this. This is not fact, but this is my interpretation from the experience and knowledge that I have gathered through doing all of the research that I've done. This back and forth motion connotates. I mean, if you just see this right now on screen, this connotates something is taking over the board or something is taking over you. Now, when you do this back and forth motion, where is the planchette landing on? When you are going back and forth, you've got Z and O, Z and O. Above the Z, you have M. Above the O, you have A. And here we go, a back and forth motion. So you've got M, A, M, A. Now those are the two quote-unquote demonic entities that come up together all the time, ZoZo and Mama. You see that all the time on the YouTube videos. You hear people talking about that all the time. To me, that's my interpretation of what I think is happening, and whether or not that's an what is that called? Idio.
I can't say it, but I know what you're trying to say.
Sorry. See if you can look it up for me, because that's going to bother me now. Idio something. If people know that in chat, if they can type that in. Your mind, your subconscious is taking over your motor skills, basically. And it's said that that's basically how the Ouija board is working. I kind of believe that, and I kind of don't believe that. Now, everybody who's listening to me right now, I don't want you to think that I am debunking the Ouija board. I do believe it is a communication tool. I truly do believe it, just like the digital recorder is, just like the Ovilus is, just like the ghost box is to some degree. There are many things that I do believe that can be. But there are things that happen within all of these tools that can be explained away. And what I'm talking about right now is this idea of the ZoZo. Because I cannot find any history of these things, because I cannot find anything to substantiate the claims, it is leading me to believe that this could possibly be the reason why. Now, I may be completely wrong, and obviously I don't have any credentials to back up anything that I'm saying, but this is my interpretation of it. And so this back and forth motion, I believe, could be it. Now, it's easy when you are going back and forth to have that idea, and the whole idea of the whole 8 going across the board, when the figure 8 is created across the board, that's been known for many, many years. It's not truly associated with just ZoZo. The figure 8 motion, sort of symbolic for infinity, has been known for many, many years, not just with the Ouija itself, but it's also been known for beginning of theology even, the idea of this infinity nature, and it's sort of taking over forever. It's sort of that never-ending type of feeling. And so it's not a direct connection to just ZoZo. It could be anything. It could be any demon. But again, you've got this back and forth motion. Even though it is a figure 8, it's a back and forth motion. And so I'm just gathering that this whole thing is misinterpreted as a ZoZo phenomenon and is not truly demonic in nature.
It's called idiomotor action. And what it is...
idiomotor effect, as Rachel just posted in the chat room.
Yeah, it happens that muscular action does not always arise out of deliberate will or violation. It is our keen expectations for a certain outcome that sometimes directs the movements of our arms and hands as the planchette glides easily on the board.
Right. Now, I don't believe that explains every experience on Ouija board, because I have had many great experiences on here that I can back up with evidence. But there are some cases where that does happen. Just like, and I keep talking about this all the time, just like with a picture of a UFO. There are some pictures and videos that you can debunk and say that it's CGI, or that it's made in Photoshop, or that it's whatever. That's sort of similar to the same idea as this, that there are cases that can be debunked, and people will try and just do those things for the sake of either getting their 15 minutes of fame, or they want to be a victim, or they want to play the whole attention game. But there are people out there who truly do respect the Ouija board and do truly communicate it with it very, very well. And there's one gentleman actually on YouTube who I find amazing, and I don't know, Luci, if you watched him. There's a gentleman on YouTube that his name is Ryan, and I think his last name is pronounced Espich or Espich. It's E-S-P-I-C-H. He's got some really great video, and he does pretty much every single day, he does a live Ouija board session. And he talks to his grandmother. There's a Q&A session with his grandmother about life events, how how the afterlife is all about and everything. And he has had several times ZoZo come to him where he claims is ZoZo. And he's gotten rid of him by basically saying, fuck you, and get away, and that was it. But, I just don't know. And he claimed, actually, that when he was talking to ZoZo, that it was just a spirit acting. And so, it could be that as well. Spirits do see everybody. They do know what we're doing. They do see the hype that goes around, and they could be just playing a game with everybody and acting as ZoZo to try and get attention. Who knows?
Well, there's a few people in the Blog Talk chat room that are talking about intent, and boiling down to the intent of what you're doing when you first begin to use the Ouija board. Now, on that theory that you're talking about, John Zaffis has a theory. There's a couple videos on YouTube where he talks about ZoZo. And he feels that this entity is actually just a spirit pretending to be a demon. When you talk about intent, obviously the spirit sees people that are looking for something. A lot of people do this because they want to get a thrill. They want to talk to the other side. It's a party game to some people. And, it's possible you have a spirit on the other side saying, hey, you want to get scared? I'm going to scare you. So those are just all theories, but quite a few people in the chat room are talking about the intent. Do you want to, what are you looking for when you're starting your session? Are you truly looking to connect with the other side, or are you just looking to get a thrill? If you're looking to get a thrill, it's kind of like, be careful what you ask for, you might get it.
All right, Luci, I'm gonna try right now.
Okay, because people are asking, when are you going to start?
I'm going to start it. I'm going to actually try right now to see if we can connect to ZoZo or whoever. Now, obviously, you cannot get spirits or anybody on demand, but I'm going to try and see, and I'm going to call out and see who comes. And I'll specifically ask for ZoZo. So I'm going to try it now for a little bit, and I had to blow out the candles because the candle wax is spilling all over onto the table. So I just wanted to show everybody again, just in case anything does happen tonight, this is a regular Ouija board. I have no wires. I'm going to do this beforehand. There's no wires. As you can see, there's nothing attached anywhere. I'm going to put this back on the table in between the candle wax that melted, and I'm going to put the planchette back on. I have nothing up my sleeves. Obviously, I'm wearing short sleeves today.
Anthony, before you start, a couple people were noticing that the K2 meter is going off. Can you tell everybody what you have around you that may be doing that other than contact from the other side?
Well, I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I mentioned. See, now it's going to yellow a little bit. And I mentioned earlier on that, if you didn't catch it, I mentioned earlier that the K2 meter has been a little moody lately, and I'm not sure if it's the mechanisms inside or not. It does work, but it's I guess it's been a little bit more highly sensitive, I should say then, that the first two greens have been almost steady or constant all the time. And I'm not going to count the two greens or even the yellow. The only thing I'm going to count is the orange and the red, if anything, if it does pop up. And I've noticed now that the second green is more constant now, and the yellow has been sort of flashing here and there. But for me, because I know the mood of this K2 meter, I'm not going to count anything unless it goes to orange or red. So if you guys see it going to orange or red, point it out. Let Luci know, because I'm not totally looking at it all the time. And I'm going to turn on the obelisk, though, when I do this Ouija board now, but I'm not going to do it just yet. So I just wanted to get a little bit ready. Just get the board ready, get my fingers ready, get my back ready, because this is going to take a little bit. And what I'm going to do first is just basically ask if anybody is here tonight, if there's anybody here with me tonight. If it moves to yes, then I'm going to ask who it is. If it tells me its name, then I'm going to go with it. If it doesn't tell me its name, or if it doesn't go to yes, then I'm going to ask the ZoZo. That's the respect that you give to the other side, because if there are spirits around me that do want to talk, I want to give them that respect that they are allowed to talk to me if they are here with me, okay? So let me turn on the obelisk. I'm sorry, I'm just going to put this like this so I can see if the word pops up. Okay. Okay, ready? Is there anybody here that would like to speak to me tonight? Is there anybody that would like to speak to me tonight? If there are any spirits here with me in the room that would love to speak with me and communicate, please say yes. See, now the K2 meter went down just to the solid 1 green. ZoZo, we've been talking about you tonight. You've heard your name many, many times. If you are real and want to talk, Avila said country again. ZoZo, if you are there, I'm ready to talk. Error. Davila said error. Is there a ZoZo here tonight? Are there any spirits that would like? Are there any spirits that would like to speak to me tonight? Please move the planchette to yes. Avila said sit. Avila said eat. Does somebody want to come and sit down and eat? I don't know what the Avalos just said.
I notice your K2 is remaining in the green, hasn't moved.
No. Are there any spirits here tonight? Are there any spirits here tonight that would like to speak to me? ZoZo, are you there? I'm not feeling anything.
No.
All right. We'll give it a little rest, and then we'll come back to it.
Well, a couple of the questions that are going in the chat room. One of them was, why does Mr. Z like to touch women inappropriately? That's one of the characteristics of this entity when it comes across, that it has it just gets pretty nasty. A couple of the list of things that happen when it is around. The entity is known to be patient, it's cunning. It will not always make itself known at first. Contact that you make may end up being innocent at first, but it can turn deeply personal and offensive. The entity, its purpose is to confuse, oppress, and dominate people. It's been known to make sexual remarks about women in the room when contacted. It has shared private information, even stating when a woman's on her period. It can trick some people into thinking they can get special powers, that it can give them special powers. Now, it identifies a person's weakness and it will use that to gain influence over them. It uses fear as motivation to force whatever agenda this entity has in store. Now, the entity may also appear in dreams after using the Ouija board, sometimes as a devil or a black figure, and it may result in a mental battle with you. And then one other thing that they say, that any other spirits that are in the room or around may flee when ZoZo becomes active. It may materialize. Some people say that it has materialized when they've been using the Ouija board. It can appear as a shadowy figure. Sometimes it's supposed to have wings and scales, and it can be shape-shifting. It has been known to appear as a child. The name Lily came up a lot in the research, where contact was made with a spirit, and it identified itself as a child named Lily. And once the conversation started, then all of a sudden the conversation turns very negative, and then the entity announces itself saying, well, I am ZoZo. It can also identify itself as a deceased loved one. There were some stories where people were using the board and they thought they were talking to a deceased grandmother or somebody like that. Then all of a sudden the entity starts saying, I am ZoZo. So it changes. It can start out very innocently, and then all of a sudden it'll become very nasty. Some things to watch for. People, there's a lot of stories of people who say they are possessed, that they get attachments, that once they've used the Ouija board and they've made contact with this entity, they feel like that it follows them, that they have this attachment. Now, John Zaffis, he says that this attachment is one of the hardest attachments to break. He states that he's rarely encountered this entity in anything other than Ouija-related cases. And he also says that the reports, they come in waves, that he may get a whole lot of people reporting contact with ZoZo, and then all of a sudden there'll be nothing for a while. So one of the things that Rosemary Ellen Guiley had stated, that the characteristics of this entity really are like that of the jinn as opposed to a demon. So there is a thought that this really isn't a demon. It is something else pretending to be a demon.
You know, one of the things, and I have you on speaker. Can you still hear me, Lucy?
Yes.
One of the things that Darren Evans had said was that he found out that ZoZo is supposedly a female and not a male. So the stories about the supposed, I don't know if you want to call it molestation of, women and all of that stuff, could that still be true then?
Well, what I found interesting, of course, I went back and I watched the Ghost Adventures episode where they were using the Ouija board. They had made contact supposedly with an entity that called itself ZoZo. And there was a female in the location. She got up, she left the room, she came back, and her pants were undone. She stated that she heard something that had told her that it wanted to see her tits. So, it led me to believe, okay, well, wait a minute, if this is a female entity, why is this inappropriate action happening to her? Like she was really acting like she had been sexually molested. So there's, when you go through the stories, there's a lot of discrepancies. The main thing is, though, that it usually is pretty nasty when it makes itself known. Things get, let's see. One story that Rosemary had in her book, she devoted a whole chapter to the ZoZo phenomena in her book called Ouija Gone Wild. And she relates to the story of a long-distance Ouija experiment in Canada. And this was the one international incident I found. And I found it interesting because these were two groups of people using Ouija boards in two separate locations. They were 30 miles apart. They were students. One was a student. He was living at home temporarily, and this student who was at home, his family had already had contact with the paranormal. They had seen shadow figures in their home, and he states that he had never used a Ouija before. He became friends with another student who was obsessed with the Ouija. Now, they decided that they were going to use the Ouija in 2 locations at the same time. They gathered friends in each group, and one group did not tell the other who was in the group. The board actually gave the initials of 2 of one group to the other. They confirmed that there were 2 people in the group that had those initials. Now, there were 2 entities that made themselves present. Now, one of them called themselves Z1, and the other one called themselves CG4. Now, they argued about control of the board. Now, this is a characteristic that comes into play when this other entity called Mama makes itself known. Supposedly, Mama and ZoZo, they argue. They argue about who's going to control. Z1 was the nasty entity, and the student states that the atmosphere was very dark when Z1 was in power. Z1 kept stating that they had control, that they had the power. Now, the other presence was kinder, and the atmosphere changed when the other entity, which was called CG4, was in control. Now, the Z1 entity told the student that his girlfriend would become ill and that he would die on his birthday. And it really doesn't say whether or not the student is still alive, so we don't have confirmation of this. This is another characteristic. When ZoZo becomes active, it has been known to tell people that negative things are going to happen. Mr. Evans states that he was told by ZoZo that something was going to happen to his daughter. And after that session, his daughter did become ill. They almost lost her, and he attributes it to ZoZo telling him what was going to happen and possibly making it happen. Now, going back to the 2 people, and this happened in Canada, when the CG4 finally took over the board again, they let them know that they could close down the session. And one of the last things the CG4 entity said, God will save the young. The student stated that the atmosphere was no longer dark. And one of the things that happened during this session, one of the participants tried to record the session, but when he played back his tape, he could hear before the session began and after the session. During the time of the session, there was nothing but blank tape. So that's just one of the experiences that were relayed. And I give this one credit because Rosemary does her research. You know, I have a tendency to believe what she's putting down. Again, what I was saying, a lot of the stories that are on the internet, you got to take with a grain of salt. It's very hard to tell what is really fact and what is fiction. My personal opinion is I think that, like we talked about before, a lot of these people, they hear the stories, they have it set up in their mind. And almost like when we did the show about the Philip experiment, like where you can create a ghost, is this another case of something that everyone's thinking about it? Everyone is geared towards, you know, something negative and evil coming. Are we actually creating this being into reality? Or is it just, you know, are we opening a door to something that we don't know anything about?
Well, yeah, Carl Jung talks about, the famous Carl Jung talks about, the possibility, and he would sort of characterize ZoZo as an archetype. You know, this would be sort of like the trickster, and it's the subconscious mind that formulates, and his idea, he's, a famous psychiatrist, that your subconscious formulates things into reality. And the idea that there's this global sort of consciousness or global subconscious, that if many, many people start to think and feel things, that it becomes a reality in your mind, and it can create itself into a physical form, which is also known as a tulpa, as a thought form. And this has been debated with the ZoZo phenomenon also as well. It's sort of been the subject of debate in recent years of whether or not ZoZo, if the cases that cannot be debunked, could this be a tulpa? Could this be your subconscious creating reality? Is it something that we all have thought about for so long and put so much of our energy into that we are now creating this into an actual reality as a physical form? And this physical form is taking over and creating itself as a spirit form. And sort of we are guiding it. We are. It's sort of like a Sims character, a Sims video game. We're giving it its clothing, its characteristics, its feelings, and we're giving its duties and what to do. And that's sort of one of the ideas that people are debating now, of whether or not that's what it could be. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced of whether or not it is. I think for certain people, I think if you believe so hard and so much, and there's that energy in your subconscious that, combined with other factors, with the ideomotor effect as well, that it can be created in that way and may seem as though. But I'm not convinced in that courtroom yet.
Well, just on that, I want to talk about Robert Murch. And for those of you who don't know, Robert Murch is the chairman of the Talking Board Historical Society. He appeared in the Ghost Adventures episode talking about ZoZo. And they interviewed him about the entity and the connection to the Ouija board. And just like you said, Robert says that the more people believe in something, the more real it is to them. He states that a lot of people say they contact ZoZo, but he doesn't really state that using the spirit board opens a door. It's more that if you think something has happened, then in your mind it did. Basically, if you wander around the dark with the idea that you're chasing the devil, then in your mind, that's the reality. So again, I kind of agree with Robert. I mean, I think a lot of this is people maybe not consciously are looking for this, but I think the intent, going back to the word intent, I think the intent is there, and people have this subconscious idea that I'm going to, something negative is going to happen. I mean, the Ouija's got such a negative reputation that I honestly do not believe that it's totally true. But everyone uses it. They think that something's bad going to happen. Everyone gets that thrill. It's like, if you use the Ouija board, you're opening a door. I really believe that that's a possibility. You want to believe something so bad, you manifest it into reality. Now, are we truly manifesting something? Are we truly manifesting a demon? If you look at the actual definition of demon, they agree. They're there. I mean, the demons are already there. But by using the Ouija board, why is it only happening with the Ouija board? As Zaf has said, a lot of the cases that he gets, most of the cases that he gets involving ZoZo are tied to the Ouija board. You don't find it with anything else. You don't find it with how is it that it happens with the Ouija board and it doesn't happen with an audio recorder? We get voices, we get some nasty things that come across, but I did not see anything that had a voice or something identifying itself to be ZoZo except with the Ouija board. And that goes back to your theory about the placement of the letters. If you're moving your hand back and forth, of course, what are you going to get? You're going to spell out ZoZo. You're going to spell out Mama.
Right. There's, obviously, there are videos on YouTube and there are certain people who have dedicated their videos to contacting ZoZo and to communicating with ZoZo, and you see these videos where it's spelling out their name and, you know, the whole thing of 98765, you know, the countdown, where it's supposedly when there's that countdown of 987654321, that's a symbolic for a demonic entity is near. You know, this whole thing about when the planchette goes off the board, then that means that it's being released off the board. And there's so many things that people say and people talk about and claim to be truth. And, you know, we may not be, Luci and I may not be the most popular show in the world, and we may not have the most popular YouTube videos going out there. And I think it's because we have a more realistic approach to the paranormal. We don't do all of these, you know, bells and whistles to the idea, and first of all, we don't create fraud and fake. And so I could have easily have moved this planchette to yes when I asked for ZoZo and made a spectacular show for everybody. But I didn't do that because I'm here for the truth. I'm looking for the truth. I'm looking for an answer. And so if it moved on its own, I would have announced it. You would have seen it. Who knows, it could do it again. Maybe when I do this one more time in a couple of more minutes and it does move, then great. But I'm not here to gather listeners, and I'm not here to gather viewers in order to get my 15 minutes of fame or our 15 minutes of fame. I'm here to get answers and to actually speak the truth in reality. And so if I cannot find anything about ZoZo, and there's no history along with it, and all it is verbal communication passed on for many, many years from a large percentage of the younger generation, then I can't claim it to be truth. You know, Darren Evans, who, you know, I really don't know very well, and I posed this question on our Facebook page, you know, a zozoologist. First of all, that name is almost laughable because the whole extensionologist means that you are an expert in the study of a scientific area or a scientific realm. And first of all, the study of ZoZo is not scientific at all. It is the it's the complete opposite of that, number one. So I don't know how anybody can call themselves a zozoologist. Or in any case, the name and the word and the description demonologist, I have a hard time swallowing because nobody can really be the expert study of demons. You really don't know. You have no clue. It's just like saying you're an expert in the afterlife. Well, you can only be an expert if you're dead. And so, therefore, to be an expert in demonology, I don't know how you can explain that or how you can be, other than studying the stories. You could be an expert in the stories of demonology, but to be an expert in demons and knowing demons and whether or not it to be truth, I can't see that to be obvious at all to me. So this show and what we try and do is try and find out what the truths are. Where can we go? Where are the roads going to lead us with ZoZo, especially for tonight? And so I've had a hard time trying to find where to even start with ZoZo, let alone where to go. And so if I can't find anything on where to even begin with it, all roads are going to lead everywhere, just like a tree branch. And you're going to go off on every tangent because the only thing that you can really rely on are stories. And I know the whole thing is your story is your own truth. I just can't believe it because I've never experienced it. I've never seen it for myself, and so therefore I can't believe it to be truth. Now, I'm not saying that it is not truth, and ZoZo is not truth. I'm saying I can't find the truth to be able to present it to myself and to be able to present it logically to the people who are listening to me and the people who rely on Luci and I to explain the truth and to give the facts. So that's why we're sort of taking this side of the battle with the truth or I don't even know what the word is, the false, truth or false on ZoZo. And so I can't find what is right and what is wrong with it. And so my stance in it right now, Luci, is that I don't believe it to be true. I think it is all a made-up belief that has been passed on for so long, that has been created, and a stigmata has been put on it that has sort of built up, just like the Ouija board. The Ouija board has such a bad stigmata on it that it's almost similar in nature, that it has just got this bad connotation to it, that when you hear the word ZoZo, it's almost as if you have just said to everyone, you have now worshipped the devil.
Well, in the chat room, we've got a couple people that were, Paul was asking about, what we thought about the Charlie thing. And I have to say, there's no Mexican demon named Charlie. First off, if there was, he wouldn't be called Charlie, he'd be called Carlos or Jose or something like that. I equate ZoZo almost to the Charlie thing. I mean, in my mind, it's people that are scaring themselves when they're using the Ouija. And to me, the Ouija is a tool. It is something that can possibly open a door to the other side. But again, it's your intent. Your intent is what makes everything happen. I feel that if you're looking for a thrill, it's going to happen. You're going to scare yourself. And I think the ZoZo phenomena is a lot of people that have scared themselves into believing that there's a demon that comes through. I haven't seen evidence of it. I haven't found any evidence of it in the research. And even when we've used the Ouija board ourselves, nothing like that has ever come through. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist if it doesn't happen. But in my experience, I haven't found proof of it yet.
I'm going to try this again, Luci. Do you want me to try and see if we can call out again?
Yeah. Try it again, see if anybody answers.
Okay, ready? It's like I'm playing the piano, moving my fingers out. Okay, ready? Okay. I'm just going to call for ZoZo. ZoZo, if you are here tonight, you've been listening to us speak your name. You've heard me say that you are not true, that you do not exist. If you do exist, the only way to satisfy my curiosity is to show me on this board that you do. So that I ask you, if you are here tonight, please move the planchette to yes. ZoZo, if you are here, please respond.
Anthony asked if there's anyone around that wants to communicate.
If there's anybody here that is around me in my energy that would like to speak, please come forward. Is there anybody here? there are any spirits here tonight around my energy, around me, that would like to speak, please come forward. I would like to speak with you and you only.
Is your Oculus still on?
Oh, no, I didn't turn it on.
Now your K2 is still in green.
Please come forward.
Anthony, I'm asking if anyone has a question that they would like you to ask.
Okay. Is anybody here tonight that would like to speak? Please do so now.
Is anything preventing them from speaking?
Are you able to speak, or is someone preventing you from not speaking with me?
Someone wants you to ask if Mama is there.
Mama, are you there? Mama, come forward and speak to me. Mama, are you there? Can you come talk?
Is there a Zaza there?
It's moving. Zaza?
Okay, you can see it moving.
Zaza? Or Mama? It stopped on W.
Okay, so it stopped on W.
Is there anybody here? Let's move it again. Stopped on P.
P.
P as in Peter.
WP.
Who's here? Is that your initials, WP? Move it again. Very slow. I think it's T. WP.
T again?
No,
T.
T as in Tony. Who's here? If you were here, just move the planchette to yes or no.
Anthony, you're not smoking right now, are you?
I put it out into the ashtray.
Somebody said that they saw smoke pass in front of the skull.
Or it may be the candle. Now it stopped. Oh, we're back. Who's here? Go ahead, finish typing or writing. Finish spelling out. I'm going to turn on the obelisk. Okay.
Okay, so far we've got letters W, P, T.
Well, see, I don't know if it just went back to the middle again, because that's where it was in the very beginning. So I don't know if T counts.
WP, white people.
Okay, who's here with me? Please come forward. You can speak. Let's move it again. I don't know what the obelisk says. It's back on W. Okay, W. What else? T again.
WP.
Is that your initials, WP? Say yes or no if that's your initials, WP. And then again, it went right back to the middle. I don't know if it's T or if it's just right back in the middle again.
Mateo says it's spelling out white power.
You part of the Nazi regime? Is this Hitler?
Now, Hitler's been known to appear.
Seriously, who is this? Hurt. Sorry guys, my arms hurt. Okay. If there's anybody here, please spell out your first name. What is your first name? Moving, but very, very slow. That's a motorcycle if you hear that in the background. Sorry. Please spell out your first name. Avila said Fort. Please spell out your first name for me, please. It's moving. Avila said descent. And it's moving over to the moon. What does the moon mean?
I'm looking it up now.
Not sure what you mean by the moon. Can you spell your first name for me, please?
the moon means yes or conditions are favorable.
Now it's moving to no, I think. No, I don't know where it's moving to now. Can you spell your name for me, please? That's over the Ouija name. I hate this obelisk. I can never understand what it says.
Anthony, they want you to ask it if it wants to talk to me.
Do you want to talk to Luci? Can you see my faces, Luci?
Hmm?
Can you see my faces?
Yes.
My back is killing me like this.
Did you say no at any point in the last seconds?
Did I say no?
Yes.
No.
I heard the word no after you asked if it wanted to talk to me.
The obelisk said something, I think.
No, this wasn't the obelisk.
No, it wasn't me. Do you want to talk to Luci?
Mateo heard it too.
Come on, what's this Ouija mean? Video? Avila said video. I don't know what that said.
I can see it's bothering you.
Oh, it doesn't move. It doesn't move. I have to stay still like that. I'm sorry, guys. Is anybody feeling anything? I don't know what WP means.
Lynn Bowling said that she felt a little bit when you said Zaza, that it felt like low energy.
Yeah, I did. When whoever was asking me to ask for Zaza and then Mama, whoever that was, when that started, that's when I started to actually feel something, not physically feel, but like feel as though something was going to happen, and then that's when it started.
Other than that, are you feeling anything?
No, I was feeling something before. Like I said, when I started to ask about Zaza Mama, and then it started to move, I did feel a little bit, but when it just landed now on Ouija, it just was very, very quiet.
And your K2 has not moved over the green at all.
No.
Now, for a while there, it wasn't moving at all. It just stayed in that first green light, and now it's the second green light is flashing, but I have not seen it go any higher than that. Pink Ghost wants to know if the entity is camera shy.
Avila said off. Okay.
Does it want the camera off?
Okay, spirits, whoever is with me, do you not want the camera? Do you want me to shut the camera off? It's set. Avila said set.
Cheo said you should be sitting on the floor. Your back wouldn't hurt.
I know. I can't do it, though, with the camera. Spirits, if you're there, please come forward. Luci and I would like to talk to you.
Is WP a name?
Is WP the initials of your name? Or is that supposed to mean something?
Okay, they want you to ask for Zaza again.
Okay, Zaza. Zaza or Mama. Zaza or Mama, come forward. Zaza, I'd like to speak with you. Are you there?
Is WP a place like Williamsport?
I don't know what the Avila said.
I can't understand it either.
I wish it would type out the name. I don't know what's wrong with it. Spirits, I'm here willing to talk. If you are out there and can hear my voice and can feel my energy, perfect. Avila said perfect. Please come forward and speak with me. Please tell me your name. And if Zaza is there or Mama is there, if you're holding everyone back, then you come forward. And if you don't want to speak, then move aside and let other spirits speak. The candle went out on my skull. I don't know what that Oculus just said. Whoever wants to speak, come forward. ZoZo, Zaza, Mama, Zuzu, whatever your name is. If you want to speak, speak now. If you don't, move aside and let the other spirits speak.
Your camera just went a little bit out of focus and then came back.
I know, I saw that.
But your Oculus is not moving. I mean, your K2 is not moving.
I'm not feeling anything.
Okay, well, so far we've gotten WP. Now, in the chat room, they're thinking it could be a place. It could be standing for well played.
Could be a lot of things. I don't want to,
The Washington Post.
The Washington Post?
You okay?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. And, people say that it can't be done with only one person. I can't say that that's false. I've seen it done many, many times with only one person. You don't need two people. It does work much better and much quicker and faster because there's more energy with more than one person. But I have seen it work brilliantly with one person. As I was talking about before, that gentleman, Ryan, who also has a YouTube channel, his works brilliantly. So it's not just because it's just me that it may not be working at all and I need to have another person. No, it does work with one.
I mean, honestly, I'm not feeling anything, and I know a lot of times I can pick up on things, and I'm not really feeling much of anything.
No, like I said, I did feel a little bit before when we were talking about Zaza Mama the first time. Zaza Mama. Cause, as soon as I said that, it just went to yellow. Zaza Mama. Zaza Mama. The K2 went to yellow when I said that before. I was feeling it before when we first initially started to talk about that. But that was it. It was fading in and out after as it was going through. So maybe WP doesn't mean anything. Maybe it just was not, there wasn't enough energy to continue. People can interpret this. Here's one thing. People can interpret this. It was going towards Z and it was going towards O. Maybe it was ZoZo. I'm not interpreting it as that. But because there wasn't enough energy, it couldn't go all the way. I'm not claiming that at all.
Okay, one thing I want to ask you, what do you have inside the little skull?
I mentioned it already. You don't listen like usual. I have the quartz and limestone.
Okay.
These are the quartz and limestone, which is said to attract spirits.
Now, Sharon said that she felt someone watching, but that's all.
Could be. Could be. Anything else in particular that you wanted to point out about ZoZo?
Other than the stories, like I said, the stories that are on the internet, like I said, a lot of them, they all seem to be the same. And they're a little, like I said, it's hard to distinguish fact from fiction. And honestly, in what I found, I honestly have trouble believing in this entity. Now, I'm not saying that, negative and darkness does not exist. But as far as something in particular named ZoZo, I'm having a hard time believing.
Yeah, it just, like I said before, there are just too many things, there are too many variables in this mix that lead me to believe that there isn't a thing called ZoZo, that this was just consciously or subconsciously created over time and has just led to this phenomenon. I don't put any credence to it or energy to it at all. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I may not be getting ZoZo tonight on the Ouija board, because there's no belief on my part, really. Maybe if I was, if I had that energy into it, ZoZo would be appearing. If I was completely afraid of it and had all of that fear and that energy that fear creates, would have subconsciously created that ideomotor effect to move the planchette in that manner. So, there's just too many things that lead me to believe that ZoZo does not exist, or is a spirit that is coming through and playing with people while they're on the Ouija board.
There's a message in the YouTube chat that says, if you keep following Ouija, you will end in hell. Repent and follow Jesus today.
Well, everybody has their opinion. And I don't know if I want to get into a theology of debate tonight. But I won't. I'll leave it at that.
I will ask you one thing before you finish. You do need to close out your session.
How would you like me to close it out?
Well, you just need to make sure that you ask whoever is around that they leave, that they are no longer welcome to communicate.
The only reason why I ask that is because, again, with the Ouija board, there are, with the 10,000 myths that are out there on how to protect yourself and how to start a Ouija board and how to conduct a Ouija board, there are 10,000 ways to close out a Ouija board. I've heard many people just say, basically, round it out in a circle and move it to goodbye, flip it over, flip the board over. I've heard so many things that nobody knows what to do. So it's pretty much each to their own, really. And so I do say, if there are any spirits who have come through, who are still lingering around, that please go back to where you came from. You're not welcome in this home unless you are invited to. And this session is now closed, so I expect that you go back to where you came from. And I will move the planchette to goodbye. I will flip it over. I will flip the board over. I'll do everything that everybody says to do. And hopefully I've done all of the closeouts that everybody does.
And there you have it. As far as this session goes, I mean, honestly, we got some movement. It went to the letter W, went to the letter P. I mean, in my mind, that is not enough to definitively say that you made contact. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
No, I don't know what that was. I'm not going to say that was contact at all. Definitely wasn't anything intelligent. There wasn't, I can say there wasn't really enough energy. I did not feel anything. Usually I would. So yeah, nothing really convinced me that there was anything at all. Certainly not a ZoZo. And that's it.
I mean, and, like I said, this is definitely a subject that, of course, we could do a ton more of research on it, and maybe later on we'll readdress it again. But as far as the session goes right now, I haven't seen or I haven't felt anything that tells me that contact was actually made. As far as ZoZo goes, I still have a hard time believing in this entity, whoever it may be. I certainly don't feel that it's demonic. I think too many things that happen are automatically classified as demonic, and I think that is a mistake on a part of a lot of people. I do believe that there are demons, but I don't think that the contact is made as often as people report it to be.
Again, you did say you can research this and we could do more about this and longer. I don't think we could because I think we have exhausted all of the research. There really is anything. All we'd be doing... the Everest just said something. I don't know what it did. All we would be doing is just regurgitating all of the stories and experiences that people have had. And I don't know how much good that would do. I don't know how much farther along in the truth trail that we'd get, but that's all that we would be doing because there's nothing else that we can naturally dig up on ZoZo itself. So I think we did a great deal of research, and I think we've exhausted a lot. There are probably many people out there that would debate us and say we didn't do enough and that they've got certain things, and that's great. If you do have information that we didn't talk about tonight, we'd love to hear from you. And so, check us out on our Facebook page and, email us at paranormal.review@aol.com. Send us some information because the more information that we get, the better educated we are and the more that we can explain and let you guys be aware of. So, please.
Yeah, so let's go to, we've got about 8 minutes left. We've got 6 minutes left. So let's go to the business that we usually do. And let's go to our Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. And this week I thought was appropriate. Our Fan of the Week is author and speaker Karen A. Dahlman of San Clemente, California. Now, if you listen to the show, Karen is a friend of the show. She was a wonderful guest who joined us on a show that we did about spirit communication and the Ouija. Karen does follow our show, and she frequently gives us a like on our page. So we want to thank you, Karen, for your support, and thank you for being a fan.
What a coinky-dink that Karen is. Fan of the Week. Thank you, Karen, and congratulations. It's always great to talk to you. And if you guys out there want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, just like us on Facebook or subscribe here on YouTube. If you guys are watching us, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel at Paranormal Review Radio.
So, once again, there are so many things that we encounter when we open the door to the unknown. How much is real and how much is our fears that we've manifested into reality. Social media, movies, television, we are bombarded by so much. And a lot of it is simply created to thrill, to make a buck, to get attention. While not all of it is false, one has to seriously try to separate fact from fiction. Don't take things that you hear and read as gospel until you've done the research. Never stop looking for the truth, and most of all, when you're on your search, remember to protect yourself before dealing with the unknown. So, when it comes to another tool that we use while we're investigating, the ghost box, you've got people who are on both sides of the coin. Now, this is a device that uses the sweep of radio frequencies to allow spirits to communicate. Now, some people like me They love the device. Others, like Anthony, question whether or not the box is really a true form of communication with the other side. Now, there have been some amazing things heard while using the box, but are we truly connecting with spirits, or are we just listening to spurts of radio broadcasts? Michael J. Baker founded the New England Center for Advancement of Paranormal Science, and he is a member of the Associated for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena. He's also a film producer and an author who writes about scientific research in the paranormal, a voice for the advancement of paranormal science. Michael will be returning to the show next Friday night to discuss the validity of the ghost box with us. It promises to be a very interesting night, so please be here. We want to thank everyone for spending yet another 2 hours with us, whether it's live on Friday nights or on YouTube or on iTunes. You're part of a very special group. Thank you, Anthony, for always being willing to step over the line just a little bit. You are truly amazing, and thank you for doing this. I mean, it was awesome. So, until next week, dear friends, keep searching for the truth and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio. Paranormal